So I think it's 4 p.m. We'll just start up immediately. Can anyone see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
All right, great. So my name is Emmanuel. I'll be your host for today. We'd like to have some community discussion on the post-COVID-19. I'll give 1 more minute before we start officially, considering that a few persons may be joining us from different locations, and then I'd like to set the ground rules before we begin. So we'll start at 4:01 exactly, and we'll have our discussions. Thank you all for coming. All right. Once again, my name is Emmanuel.
Right.
I'm a banker, a tech entrepreneur. So today we'll be having a discussion on what I know is the common discussion around us, around COVID-19. Before we begin, I'd like to know how we've been faring. You can please drop your comments in the chat. I'll request that we mute our mics during the course of this conversation. Let's just mute our mics. You can drop your comments or feedbacks on the comment section. All right? So, because you are Christians, I'll just do a 10 seconds prayer to begin the session. Father, we thank you for this session, and we ask that this session will be fulfilling in Jesus' name. We pray for our nation and for the world at large that this coronavirus episode will come to an end in Jesus' mighty name. So the welcome, I want to request you to mute your mics, all right? As you join us, just mute your mics. All right. Today's discussion will be on something that is not germane. All over social media, we've heard about the COVID-19 experience, how it is changing the business landscape, how people have to adapt or die out, how that remote work is becoming the norms, it's becoming the new normal. Our focus today would, however, be on a few things that have not been adequately addressed. And the focus here would be for MSMEs, medium, small, and macro, medium, and small enterprises. All right, so our discussion today would focus on how you can position your business to remain relevant post-COVID-19, with the understanding that for those of us in Nigeria, from Monday, the 4th of May, the lockdown restriction will be relaxed. So we expect that there will be some level of resumption of business duties and commercial activities. However, it's very important for us to reflect back at the last 5 weeks and look at what the last 5 weeks of the COVID-19 episode has taught us as businesses. And so we'll be having a bilateral conversation between ourselves as the host and you participants. However, like I said earlier, we want us to drop our comments or feedbacks, questions for the facilitators on the comment section. Without taking much of our time, I'd like to introduce our first guest. Our first guest name is Daniel. Daniel is the founder of DPI Innovation Hub. DPI Innovation Hub is a solutions provider with IT solutions Deep Innovation Hub also has trained a lot of growing developers in Lagos. He also doubles as the president of Young Professionals Forum, a pan-denominational forum that addresses young people's need. He'll be taking us on a bit of business operations, how your MSME can, reposition itself in terms of cost effectiveness, in terms of business continuity plans, and some other relevant take-homes that I think will be very important for you to take note of. So I'll introduce Mr. Daniel to take over while we remember to drop our questions in the chat session. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. It's great to be here. Can you hear me? I hope I'm loud enough.
Yeah, we can hear you, we can see you.
Okay, fantastic.
I hear you.
All right, it's a pleasure to be here and to be discussing this subject that has dominated the social media space and the entire airwaves. And I'm very positive that by the time this epidemic is over, or by the time it subsides, because we hear that this might be with the world for a while until we can have at least a vaccine to be able to address the disease. But the focus for this afternoon is going to be on some of the things that we can do as SMEs to be able to, be properly positioned just after this incidents of lockdown that we have had. Well, as at today, we have about more than 3 million cases, 3,307,600 cases of COVID-19, and just 40,759 of these cases is from Africa. That's about 1.2%. Despite the fact that Nigeria ranks one of the top 5 in the prevalence of this epidemic in Africa. Of course, the general outlook is that the prevalence hasn't been so dominant in Africa compared to other parts of the world. It's arguable because there are some opinions to think that the level of testing also determines sometimes the numbers that are eventually reeled out. And that's why, in as much as the numbers are not that large in Africa, there is still a need to exercise some caution. All right, in the course of this session, I'm addressing about 4 focus areas. Number 1, I'll just take a general outlook to see what's general outlook for Africa based on some, feedbacks from some multilateral organizations, and also my view on the opportunities and the positionings that is critical to be able to, that we need to take, focus on as MSMEs. And I'll do a bit of quick tips on building capacity for remote work. And lastly, I'll just drop a few hints, even for people that are not necessarily MSMEs themselves, but are employees that needs to also position after this, ravaging epidemic. Right, let me move to the general outlook for Africa. And these are some excerpts from the IMF. Now, from the numbers that I reeled out earlier, you will notice that the numbers are not so significant, so high in Africa compared to other parts of the world. And so Africa seems to be suppressing the curve so far, the numbers, because quickly there seems to have been some proactive measures to lock down many of the nations, and the level of prevalence has not been as high as compared to other places. So it looks like we might escape the worst of the pandemic, and but there is still a need to be cautious about this, like I said before. Also, Africa, because of the fact that when now you begin to see that economies are gradually beginning to open. For example, Nigeria is beginning to, open up the economy from Monday. And there is a need for caution because I happened to go out yesterday and I noticed the way people were carrying out their activities. And you find out that there is no care. People do not seem to be worried about social distancing and all of this. And that's why it's been predicted that there could be a W curve. That's to say that after it has gone down, there might be an upsurge. And that's why businesses need to plan and position accordingly, because if the lockdown is subsided, removed, and we are all allowed to go out from next week or whatever time they open up your own economy from wherever you're watching from, our businesses must be properly positioned such that if tomorrow another lockdown happens, you are able to continue your business. So it's important to note that, yes, the impact has not been massive, but we must be careful so that if there's, for any reason, a resurgence, we are not caught unawares the way you were caught unawares the first time. Also, one of the feedbacks from the IMF or recommendation, their outlook, is to say that capital will look for countries that are less battered by this epidemic. And of course, we all know that Western countries are badly battered. The US alone accounts for more than 1 million of these cases. And many of the European countries like Italy and Spain are badly hit by this epidemic. And so capital could flow in the direction of Africa. And there's a need for us to position to be able to take advantage of these opportunities that might be emerging. And also, it's projected that there could be emotional and economic backlash against China as expected, because of course things came, the disease, the epidemic started from China, and some are even insinuating that it was an intended attempt to bring down the US and all of that. So and of course the fact that businesses had to pivot away from China and begin to source their raw materials and other resources from other places, that could affect the Chinese economy. And of course, there is a reverse impact as well for the local economy, because there will be some things that we used to depend on China and other parts of the world to source, will now begin to be sourced locally. Now, what is my view from all of this? There, of course, will be new opportunities. New opportunities will be open in Africa, and by extension, Nigeria. As a country, will begin to look inwards. And a quick example of that is the case of hand sanitizers and face masks. All hand sanitizers being used in Nigeria today and by the NCDC are made in Nigeria. And you know that when you go to the streets today, you'll find face masks everywhere. Before now, those face masks were produced, were imported from abroad. In fact, I personally know a person that is a teacher, but currently produces, clothes face mask. And so there are new opportunities that are going to be coming up even within the country. And so there is a need for us to be highly attentive so that we can take advantage of these things. One of the reasons why these new opportunities will be prevalent is because the restriction has taught the world, a very big lesson never to be over-reliant on other countries. You'll notice that even in Nigeria, for example, many times the rich or the people, the elites in authority tend to, engage in medical tourism, and some of them are highly dependent on traveling abroad before, to maintain their health. But I believe in the last 6 weeks, many of them have had to make do with whatever they had in Nigeria. That means that they will begin to take seriously the needs to ensure that if something like this happen again, they will not be caught unawares. And that makes it, a matter of priority, because many times the challenge we have is that many of these people are not concerned because it doesn't touch them. But this time, some of these things have touched them. Some of their businesses that have been impacted. And so they will see a need to ensure that the economy of the nation is stimulated, and some of these things that were unnecessarily dependent on imports will now begin to happen locally. And that's why you as an entrepreneur needs to be on the lookout for these opportunities. All right. Now, one of the things that have happened a lot during this period also, although the COVID-19 was not directly necessarily responsible for this, and that's the plummeting oil price, Nigerian economy is highly dependent on oil. And with the plummeting oil price, we know that there is a need. And because economic activities, have been affected in other parts of the world that have hitherto required and bought our oil, you will note the reality is that the plummeting oil price might not come up so soon. And so Nigeria as a country will be looking for what other ways money can be made. Aside from the fact that oil price is plummeting, it's very difficult to get tax returns, because as every organization is looking for a way to give palliatives to their people. And so one of the things that nations are doing is to extend the times for remittance of tax and do a kind of tax deferral and tax cuts where possible. And so the source of revenue, the oil source of revenue is cut, the tax source is affected, and the impact of tax even on our revenues. And so the nation will be looking for other areas to generate economic activities, and this will include maybe agricultural exports and what have you. So as an SME, there is a need for us to begin to look and position and look for where these opportunities will be coming from. And also another thing that we need to note is that there will be a reprioritization of needs. And this is the risk area for many of the business owners that might be listening now, for the small businesses. Many people are going to focus on the thing that is most important. People that spend money on things that are, that are non-essential begin to be careful on how they spend. And so as an MSME, will you focus, if your focus is on luxury goods, don't you think you need to readjust and begin to look at what are the things that are essentials that you can use to augment your business, such that you are not caught in the loop of prioritization of the needs of the people? I was just thinking about, I think last week, about the way education is being conducted, and the fact that, yes, our children, the pupils and students usually would have to go to the university, to their schools, the physical building, and then they learn that way. But these days, they cannot go to those places anymore. My son's school started doing some form of e-learning activities, for the kids. And I said to myself that there will be some winners and there will be some losers. There will be some shift in the educational sector. And while I was thinking of that, I was thinking of one of my, somebody I once worked on a project with. She used to run an after school, and she made use of technology a lot. And so I was thinking that people like that, our business is small, our school is not big, and she doesn't have so many, she doesn't have so many students. But if she can take advantage of this period, she might be able to get the market share from some of the bigger schools that are not able to leverage technology. Guess what? As I was thinking about that, the next day, I just saw on her status, she was already doing e-learning. She was advertising a program where she's trying to, do preschool students, organize games, and she's using, I think, Microsoft Teams. She uses WhatsApp and a couple of online tools to be able to bring the children up together online and be able to tutor them. Some of the schools that had been big hitherto that relied heavily on physical infrastructure and are not able to evolve at this time will lose some of their students, some of those smaller smaller institutions who are able to leverage technology. And so as an entrepreneur, as an MSME, you need to begin to think that, how do I evolve? What are the things that people are going to be demanding at this time? And how do I plug into these areas of demand? All right. And one last thing, one critical view I'd like to share with you is also not the last point, but on this area, the last, SMEs must employ a realistic work model with remote work capability as a priority. You know, either told you the normal practice is that people go and resume a physical location and then they commute there, they work from 9 to 5, and when they are done, they go back home. And that continues on a daily basis. But you know, even with the current restrictions that have been put in place, it might be difficult to work the way you used to work. And there is a need for you to begin to prioritize remote capabilities to shape your work model in such a way that it allows for some form of remote capability. Now, you know, I was just doing a review on some of the things that we were doing. Just before I left, just when I started my our business, we were, you know, at the beginning of the business, very heavily reliant on physical presence and on physical location. And, you know, at the beginning of the program was, you know, starting off the business, we did a lot of physical work. But with time, we began to reinvent and review the business model and began to focus on some of the most important parts of the business. And so something happened, I think about 2 years ago. I lost my laptop. Guess what? That could have been like the end, because most of my work was, you know, software and all of this. But the reality is, most of the things that we were doing, the saving grace at that time was because many of the things we were doing were stored in the cloud. We began to leverage remote capabilities, but at that time we were not fully into remote. We still did some things, physically and stored in physical computer and all of that. But we are not fully, utilize remote. So we began to, from that moment, began to reinvent and see that no, there is a need for us to ensure that wherever we are at any point in time, work can continue. I must tell you that since the lockdown started, we have not lost a single day to the lockdown, right? Because at the time the lockdown started, we had begun to work fully remotely. And all of our business, all of the people that work on the team work from dispersed locations, and we only came together, at appointed times, just maybe to do some work together, and maybe we still need to just come together and analyze and do stuff together. So there is a need to begin to look into that if you're going to be able to survive going forward. Many organizations have been very careful with remote. Many of the large organizations, in as much as they have the capability to work remotely, have not been able to do it because they are afraid of the risk that are associated with remote. But unfortunately, with COVID-19, no one was left with an option, and they all had to deploy their remote capabilities. I knew of one of the banks that struggled with transiting to remote because it appears that many of their staff were allocated physical desktop computers. And taking a shot on capital expenditure at this time can be very difficult because you are going to even pay employees that might not even be working. That's already a cost you are incurring. And then to now begin to think of buying laptops, and although it's a cost they had to incur to be able to survive, because this, is not ending as soon, not ending very soon, because even if this ends soon, everybody knows that our life would not remain the same. And so there is a need for you as an MSME to begin to look at your business and begin to see, how can I ensure I have readiness for these capabilities that will be emerging. One of the other beauties of activating remote capabilities for your organization is the fact that it increases your efficiency. For example, you're going to be, now government had said that in Nigeria, that offices will be open and there will be curfew from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. And that means nobody can leave home until 6 a.m. And we know some people spend 3-4 hours in traffic. So work typically will start, or maybe some people 2 hours. Work typically will start 8 a.m. and in some places 9 a.m. That's for some people 9 a.m. depending on where they are coming from. And work has to end at 3 p.m. So why would you go spend 6 hours, spend 3 hours on the road or 4 hours on the road to and fro, and then you spend 6 hours in the office? That doesn't make business sense. You know, except for essential people that have to be in the office by all means to get things done. But we have to continue to reinvent and review our business model in such a way that the things that can be taken out, you need to take them out. That's the things that can, you know, the things that can do without physical presence, you have to deal with them to take out the need for physical presence. Let me quickly reel through some of the steps that you need to take if you want to build capacity for remote work. Number one, you need to incorporate a remote work policy for your organization with clarity on how performance will be measured and remuneration end. Yes, so remote work is going to be happening a lot this time, but you need to be very clear on how you're going to measure performance, on how people are going to be remunerated. Do you need to run a shift? Do you need to, so you have to reinvent and think of how you're going to measure your performance. How do you know somebody is doing what they're supposed to do? Are you going to give them some task in the morning and ask them to tick it at the end of the day, the ones they have completed? Are they going to be sanctioned for the ones they said they will do at this time and I'm not able to do it? So you have to think of how you're going to measure performance and how you're going to remunerate the people that work with you. Another thing you need to do to build capacity for remote work is that you need to subscribe, to consider cloud version of the software that you use for your day-to-day work. Your office productivity tools, for example, Office 3, you could consider Microsoft 365. It used to be Office 365, but recently, some days ago, it was changed to Microsoft 365. And so you can subscribe for those tools for Word, Excel, and all the tools, Microsoft Teams, all the tools that you need to engage your team together. So that, typically what you do most likely is that you work with the document on your system, somebody sends it to another person, you edit it, you send it back. But with Office 365, or maybe you can use Google Docs, because Google Docs is free. You can consider that to save some cost, although there is a free version of Office 365 as well. So you can look in either of them, whichever one you prefer, so that you can do your Excel, PowerPoint, and Word remotely and in the cloud, such that you can share the documents. Somebody can work on the document and then you send the link, share with another person, they can log on to it, and then you can all work together with those tools, without so much stress. And if you run a fairly large organization, you need to choose an ERP that is web-based. One of our clients recently, we had to move their solution to the cloud. We had recommended, because typically we recommend that clients deploy their solution in the cloud. And but sometimes because they are afraid, they decide to deploy locally. And in the wake of the lockdown, one of our clients had to say, please, I need you to move this remotely so that people can work from home and be able to, move the business process around, from the comfort of their own. So if you run a fairly large organization and then you need some tools for leave management, for requisitions and all that, you need to consider a web-based tool that can help you to move around your business processes without being physically in a single location. Also, you must prioritize laptop computers for your staff instead of desktop computers. I made mention of this before, that many organizations will find it difficult to transition to this dispersed, distributed way of working, because they need to physically be where their desktop computers are. So, and that, doesn't make mobility very easy. And so you need to look at that and see how you can, do that for your staff so that work can be done in a more distributed way. And also one thing you might want to do also is to get a performance tracking tool that has the capability of putting your members of staff on their toes, notwithstanding where they are working from. So you need to look inwards and consider tools that can track the performance of your staff, that can track the tasks they are meant to do, and be able to give you feedback on the ones they are done and when they did it. One of our organization once did a software that works around this, where people are able to be monitored, and that fits into their eventual performance appraisal. So you must look for a tool that you can use to track the performance of your staff and be able to monitor, and at least that will keep them on their toes, when they are not, because they are not physically in the office where you can monitor them. Now, finally, let me just give a few tips to the people that might not necessarily be, or maybe you are an MSME and then you probably you're also an employee somewhere, or you're just joining this program just to listen. It's important, I saw a video yesterday by one of the MDs of one of the leading banks, and it was saying that they'll have to review the status of 75% of their workforce. And what does that mean? It means some people are going to lose their job. And that's why, in the organization that one of the organizations that I lead, the Young Professionals Forum, we've been emphasizing the need for young people to begin to look inwards, to begin to learn, to begin to unlearn, to begin to reinvent themselves so that they are properly positioned for the opportunities that will be emerging out of the dynamics of work that is emerging post-COVID-19. It is certain that it will not be business as usual. Yes, many will lose their job. In the same vein, many new jobs will be created. So rather than being jittery about the possibility of losing your job, what should you begin to do? Begin to reinvent yourself, begin to learn, begin to look for, pick up skills that will help you to be properly positioned. There will be a lot of digital marketing openings available. A lot of graphics design openings will be available because many people want to connect and engage with their customers via the digital channels. So it's important for young people and as many people as are listening to me to begin to think, how do I position myself? And also it's very key to note that as organizations are beginning to downsize or right size, based on their realities, yes, they need to just look at their realities and put sentiments aside. There are some things that will be used to determine those that will be kept and those that will be allowed to go. And most of these things are soft skills, adaptability. Who is that? And they are reviewing people. Who is that person that can easily change? We have changed and told them to begin to do this now. Who is that grumbling staff that is not able to quickly change and do what we have been asked to do? They are going to be looking for those kind of people to take them out. People that are emotionally intelligent. Who is that person that is always causing trouble amongst the team? That is not able to manage his emotion and manage that of other people. People that have analytical skills, that are not just doing the work that they are asked to do, but they add value to the business because they do critical thinking. They follow the business. They analyze the things that they've been asked to do. And they just do what they are asked to do because they are asked to do it. People that are analytical thinkers, people that are people that, are strong with teamwork, that are able to engage and work with others, easily. People that have cultural awareness. Work is going to be getting as distributed as possible. And that means that we're going to be having to collaborate with many people from different places, even around the world. And I know for some of us, you will have been part of several meetings, maybe on Teams, on Zoom, and the world has become more open. And so we'll be looking for people that are culturally aware, people that can engage with people without bringing their biases. These are the in-demand skills that everybody needs to build if you'll be able to feature in the organization of the future. All right, I think I need to stop here. Thank you very much for listening. I'm very positive that as by the time we are done, some of us will be properly positioned even for these opportunities that are emerging. Thank you very much for your time. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Daniel. A lot you've said around repositioning your business if you are an MSME. A few of those things stand out. The fact that, for example, you can now contract your jobs anywhere across the world. You do not need to be in the physical locations to get jobs around your location. Yeah, I know of someone who is on this training who does jobs for people within and outside this geographical space. I mean, you get people who ship developers from China, from Europe. So it's important, like you have said, that we begin to think outside our geographical location, because one of the big lessons from the COVID-19 experience is the fact that your location is no more a prerequisite for you getting a particular job done or a particular request done. I also want to add to say that there are a lot of resources that young businesses can benefit from. For example, there are paid applications and solutions, communication, collaboration solutions that you can adopt. But there are several other free to use, collaborative, tracking solutions you can also adopt. So it's important that as a small business or a growing business, you are able to leverage on those packages, because a big take home from the current reality is the fact that every business has to be conservative. So as much as possible, you want to reduce your expenses. Like our first speaker said, the prices of dollars, the naira to dollar ratio has increased, and as such, you do not want to increase your overhead, your expenditure, your capital or operational expenditure. So it's important for businesses, for business owners, and for individuals to begin to embrace these solutions, begin to think of local solutions to adopt, and I think that would be a good way for us to move. All right, I'll take a few questions before we proceed. Someone is asking to say, all right, this is from Gabriel. Gabriel is an educationist and wants to know how educationalists can leverage on remote work. All right. So it says, what are the available online learning apps that are efficient for the purpose? All right. He also wants to know, wants us to analyze the apps and what advantages, the pros and cons that we can benefit from them. All right. Gabriel is also requesting to know what are the cost implications of online learning from the perspective of both the teacher and the learner. All right, before Mr. Daniel responds, I'd like to say that from the last question, I had a discussion some months back about the future of online learning. For example, myself, I'm running an online program, an online MBA program, and people, Africans, Nigerians, a lot of us are advanced to online learning systems, because the online learning system comes with a lot of need for discipline and consistency. Now, the COVID-19 experience has shown us that a lot of our previously physical engagements, classroom engagements, physical meetings would now survive online. So, as an educationist, it goes without saying that you would need to adopt tools, online tools and resources that would help you reach out to your students, reach out to your pupils, and it keeps getting better. Of course, the solution, the ecosystem has not developed to enable learners, get consistent with using online resources. But as people begin to adopt these techniques, it's important for you to be at the forefront of this adoption. Having said this, I'd like for Mr. Daniel to shed more light on the two other questions raised by Gabriel.
All right. So I'd like to say that with respect to online teams that can be implemented, that can be used for education, some people are using tools as simple as WhatsApp. That's to say that now I can give you an example of one of the schools. What they did was just to create classes and add parents to the classes, and then create a schedule for the classes. And then they have pre-recorded videos that they will share at certain times of the day. Parents are supposed to help their give their phones to the children. Children look through the videos, and then they complete their assignments, and each parent can send a copy to the class teacher, all on WhatsApp, right? The only challenge with that is that there might be a challenge with tracking. That's tracking, those things. Although you may have to now always look through, scroll through the page to be able to, and then to track what has been submitted and all that can be a bit cumbersome, but at least it's a good start for that organization. But there are other tools. For example, many of the schools in the US and some schools even right here in Nigeria use Microsoft Teams. Microsoft had created a tool that is free for education. And so within Microsoft Teams, you can create a class. You can add the class teacher, you can add the students, maybe an account can be created for all the parents and then sent to them. And then as long as you even have a Microsoft account, it can be added to, that's for everybody that has a Microsoft system today, you have a Microsoft account. So they can collect the accounts of their parents and add their parents to that, or they can create accounts for all of them and give to them. And so they can create a class, add all the students in the class. So parents can log into Microsoft Teams, and then they can go to their child's class, and then the videos will be uploaded into Microsoft Teams. And then within that class, every parent can view the video, show it to their children, and then assignments can also be given on the platform to that class. Assignments can be submitted on the platform, and then teachers can mark the assignments and provide feedback. So that's one tool that can be leveraged on. And of course, there are other custom e-learning solutions that could be leveraged on for the sake of online learning. So is there any other question that I've not addressed around this question?
All right. Okay, I think you've addressed the major question. For his first question that speaks to recommending solutions, online learning apps, I want to say that beyond education, I mean, for whatever industry you belong to, it is possible for you to just make a little bit of a research on available online tools to be adopted within your business space. So whether you work within the education space, or you sell shoes or bags, or you provide services, there are tools that you may need to adopt. Now, speaking about education, for example, I know of the Google Classroom, where students and teachers can interact. So this is to say that every business ecosystem has available online tools that you want to adopt. All right. All right, we have one more question here from Godson. Godson is asking that, will you say that the COVID-19 pandemic has favored B2B or B2C businesses, B2B being business to business and B2C being business to consumer businesses? So would we say that this episode has favored B2B and B2B systems? All right, Mr. Daniel.
Well, I think that's going to be dependent on the sector that you are looking at. That's going to be, except I have some particular examples, but that's going to be very dependent on the sector that you are looking at to say whether for everybody, whether business to customers or B2B. For B2B, well, many times they do not, in interfacing with organizations, it might be easier for you to interface without maybe a physical presence, and maybe you need to call somebody and initiate a business and get it done. But for people that have to be physically, have to physically sit and sell their wares and be open to customers directly, there might be greater impact in that area because they're not able to relate directly with customers. For example, that deal in sale, in trading, for example, which usually constitute a majority many a times, many of them have been locked in and are not able to do their business directly with their customers. But of course, some of them are still taking advantage of online platforms. Jumia is still open and Konga is still open and people are still ordering from some of those. So it depends on how you are positioned, whether B2B or B2C, your positioning determines the impact of the epidemic on your business.
All right, thank you very much. So I want to appreciate you, Daniel, for that wonderful session. We'll now go to the next session by a very resource person. She leads the MSME community at Faith Foundation. Now, Faith Foundation is one of Nigeria's leading entrepreneurship and employability empowering foundations. So I think she's well pleased to have this discussion with us because she leads the community at Faith Foundation for MSME. Her name is Oluchi, and I'd like to invite her to take the next session. Welcome, Oluchi.
Hi, hello, Emmanuel. Thanks for that introduction. Okay, so maybe I'll just start with talking about what Faith Foundation does, and then the work I do for Faith. So I'll put a bit of clarity to that. In a nutshell, what we do is that we are committed to helping entrepreneurs thrive and succeed in Nigeria. So, and we do this through providing business knowledge. So we have an array of trainings that we provide, and this cuts across different stages of business. So let's say your business is in the idea stage, or you've been around for a bit, or you're just trying to scale your business. So we have trainings that we design for every part of the spectrum. We also provide growth support services, and by that I mean mentoring and consulting. And we went a step further to get involved in research. So we identified the major pain point of entrepreneurs, and we research on that. And when we get our findings, we begin to advocate through appropriate channels. But for me, what I do for Faith is that I manage a virtual resource platform for entrepreneurs. So this platform is called msmehub.org. It's a free resource platform developed by Faith Foundation for Nigerian entrepreneurs, and it hosts resources developed by experts in the entrepreneurship space. And these resources are expressed in different formats. So we have articles, videos, infographics, and all sorts of good stuff. And what we have been doing in this, what I call it, this COVID-19 era, is that we've been working earnestly to ensure that we have a plethora of relevant resources on the hub that businesses can leverage to continue to stay afloat. And our Faith Foundation as a whole, we've been, organizing several seminars on how to, stay afloat and continue to remain in business post-COVID-19. So yeah, and then to address, some of the issues, I would approach it from, like 4 different sectors. So first is to understand the impact of this pandemic in real terms. Then we'll talk about, helping to understand small businesses to understand the current risk that their businesses are facing. And then we talk about, business operating models and business continuity plans. And then we'll talk about a few government initiatives that have been put out there as a stimulus package. And we'll now discuss and recommend businesses that would stand and thrive post-COVID-19. So someone said to me, coronavirus is the name, and I mean, COVID-19 is the nickname. That's funny. But anyways, the truth is that because of the pandemic, the global economy has practically shut down, and it's unlike anything we've ever seen. Because first and foremost, this particular crisis is first a health crisis. So we should not forget that. So, and before it's even a financial crisis or it's beginning to affect our economy. So because of that, we all know that in most countries had to implement the lockdown and the social distancing measures. They had to enforce that to try and flatten the curve of the spread of the disease. But the downside of that is that as they tried to flatten that curve, they deepened the curve of a potential recession. And this caused a lot of pain. I mean, we are living through the pain, and we also understand that a lot of people are living through this pain because nearly every sector has been hit. And for Nigeria particularly, it's bad because we have a workforce that is mostly self-employed people. And for some of them, they earn a daily wage. And what that means is that if they don't work, they can't eat. So, but I'd like to mention some of the sectors that have been hit the hardest. So we'll talk about tourism and aviation. I mean, this particular sector took a nosedive. One, because of the lockdown, travel restrictions, and most local and foreign airlines have shut down completely. And even if they were operating, people are not interested in traveling. As at March this year, I think the International Air Transport Association, IATA, they reported that there's an estimated revenue loss of $252 billion in the sector globally. And this is as at March, so we don't even know what the numbers are now. So it's really bad. Then we talk about the hospitality industry. That's the hotels and what have you. I mean, people are staying at home and they are now craving home cooked meals. They are not really interested in, hanging out or doing any of that. Then there's the cinemas, the entertainment industry. And we're talking about movie premieres, musical concerts that have been canceled or postponed. This is a multi-billion naira worth industry. All has been lost in this season. But one that is very close to my heart is the oil and gas. I mean, when the last time we checked, I think a barrel of oil now sits below $1. And for Nigeria, it's bad because it's double jeopardy. We are talking that oil is now selling below $1, and Nigeria does not have onshore storage facilities for the oil. So now we have vessels roaming the high sea with oil that no one is willing to buy. And we're spending top dollar to preserve this oil in these vessels. So you see that it's totally ridiculous. And then we talk about the real estate, construction. I mean, people are trying to save as much cash as they can. So they're not necessarily trying to buy properties or do anything like that. And even if they are probably in the construction phase, because of the restrictions, there's been restriction in movement. So even continuing whatever construction they have, it has been difficult as well. Then there's manufacturing. I mean, factories have been shut down. One, because of the restrictions. Then two, because people are not buying. So why would you continue to produce goods that the demand has gone down? Then there are the startups. Let's say someone just was able to rustle up some money, and then they bootstrapped themselves and they've started a business, and now they're telling them there's COVID-19. So there's no market for whatever products they have. So it's really bad. We'll talk about consultants, services, because most companies are no longer looking for consultants. They are looking inwards. They are being very resourceful. Even government is tightening its budgets. So whatever it is that they would have contracted out to consultants, they are now like, oh, you know what? Let's see how we can solve this problem internally. Then there's the general trade. I mean, China plays a crucial role in global trade. And because of the COVID-19, they've not been able to do that. So imports, exports, all of that has been affected by this crisis. So for business owners to understand how this affects their business, my own advice would be that the first step is that they need to understand if there's still a market for whatever product or service they are providing. Because I can tell you for free that some industries may go extinct after this COVID. Yeah, we're actually in the post-COVID anyways, because a lot has happened. A lot has happened in terms of our psyche, the way we think and the way we react. So the first step would be to begin to understand the new trends in consumer behavior and their preferences. So what are these consumers doing? So because they are the market, I mean, customer is king. So you should be able to go like, oh, okay, now that this situation has happened, how will these consumers react to this? So I'll look at it from like three different angles. First, you talk about consumer sentiment. So consumer optimism, how optimistic are they around this whole crisis? Are they, for me, I'm very optimistic that this will blow over soon. But the paranoia is much. Because even if they come today and say, oh, fine, we have a vaccine, fine, whatever, the virus has disappeared or whatever, then it will take a while before people begin to ease back into what was normal before. So you need to take that into account. And then some people have had an epiphany and they're like, you know what? Most of the things I used to acquire, I don't need them because they've been able to live through this season and they understand that some of the things that they thought were very necessary are no longer necessary. And then if you move beyond that, you have to think short term and long term. So you're not going to sit and say, oh, okay, fine, I'm waiting for this situation to blow over and then business will continue as usual. No, you have to think, what can I do in the short term to, you know, move my business forward or entirely change the business model? Then we talk about consumer income. I mean, Daniel mentioned it. Whether we like it or not, many consumers have had a major decrease in their income. Some have lost their income entirely. So what that means is economic hardship. They will have to definitely reduce their spending. So they are spending on essentials. They are not looking to spend on luxury items. So their purchasing power has diminished. So even when you're selling maybe an essential commodity, there's also now probably they're not even looking at brands. You know, will I choose a peak milk over a 3 crowns milk? It's now a case of, oh, it is what it is. If this would give me the protein, I might as well go to something that will save my money. Then consumer spending. We'll talk about consumer spending. I mean, there has been a major shift in their attitude and their shopping behavior, especially in, you know, places, urban areas, places like Lagos. So we are talking about them sticking to basics such as food, household supplies, personal care income items, and, you know, home entertainment. I mean, I have to mention that because the truth about the matter is, you know, when you stay at home for a long while, it becomes claustrophobic. So people want something to help them get by. I mean, Netflix is smiling to the banks this season. So people are looking at things like that. Personal hygiene products like soaps, hand sanitizers, and then the way they purchase things has also shifted. I mean, they would rather order things online than go to the market. So you see a lot of people are even buying their greens. I mean, groceries, green vegetables, tomatoes, all of that. They are buying it online. So, and there's also a rise in healthcare supplements as well. I mean, people want to boost their immunity. So overall, I'll say that consumers are dramatically reducing what's called discretionary spending. So, and this will have grave consequences for industries such as, you know, the restaurants, apparels, footwear, accessories, all those kind of industries. People are not thinking, oh yeah, I need that cloth or I need that footwear. And the fear is that most of these consumer behavior changes may become permanent. So as a business owner, I'd advise that you don't just sit, like I said, and be ball watching and saying, okay, you know what, it's gonna blow over and then we'll go back to business as usual. Look through how you can change what it is. Because I'll use, for example, I'll use China, which is one of the countries that has supposedly passed the peak period of this COVID-19. The truth is that things have not returned back to normal. People are not still buying clothes and all those luxury things because, one, their income has been hard hit, and this can go on for several years. So it has, let's call it, it is no longer business as usual. So people are looking to digital and low touch activities, anything that just would take them away from the crowd. That's what they are thinking. Then we even have things like online fitness classes, online fitness apps, online, video streaming and all that. So this has become, I call it, the new normal. So long-term outlook for new behaviors would be around, international travel. Even beyond now, people may not be thinking of traveling internationally anytime soon. They will also not be looking to large public gatherings anytime soon. Trips to the malls, they will also not be looking at that. And if they become very proficient in video conferencing, they may also not even be looking to, organize all those kind of events that require people to come together. So I was online today, I think on LinkedIn, there was this lady, she's a top person in UBA. So she was talking about their AGM. So she said that this was the very first time, something that they thought wasn't possible, that they were going to have their AGM on Zoom. And they did it. But she said it didn't just come. It wasn't just, there was a lot of rehearsals, the sound, the lighting, the presentations. They did all that to ensure that it came out and it top notch. And that happened. And I understand now that we have some Zoom event planners, people who plan events on Zoom. They do that, and just the world is like, call it, changing by the second. So, and all of this has implications on how we buy and consume. So as a business owner, what can you do? So the first step I'll say is you develop an online presence if you don't have now. It's a case of innovate or die. You have to come online. I don't care the type of business that you do, find a way to get it online. You can start with the social media, get a website, do that. Then of course, you have to update your customers on the changes in your operations. Customers need to understand, oh, okay, this is what we are doing, the new things that we're doing. And you can do that. You can even communicate your hours of work and all that. Do that through newsletters, your website, your social media accounts. Then please, please, please evaluate the language that you use and the imagery being used. People are very sensitive these days. They are on the edge. So they don't want anything offensive or anything they feel, oh, okay. So it's crucial that you think about what type of message your brand is conveying. Some things to consider is, of course, avoid visuals where people are in crowds. Reframe your marketing language. It may describe a close interaction with others. And also take some time to see what changes you can make that would be beneficial to the crisis right now. It's always good to think of the season that we are in so that your message is not totally outside what the message is. And of course, change your delivery method. If you have a brick and mortar business, and you are no longer able to see customers, now is the time for you to think, okay, so how can I do that? So I'll use an example. My daughter, 2 or 3 days ago, she had an eye infection. In fact, she woke up with her eye swollen. So we thought it was okay. Let's watch this. So by the next day, the eye was swollen. So what did we do? We just, of course, luckily we had the contact of the eye doctor. We called her up and then there was a video call. She looked at it and she recommended what to use. Now she's on her way to recovery. She has not recovered fully, but we bought the drug and she's using it. So that's, think of new ways. If you have to put your consultation online, you can do that. Then if you're a tailor, you probably make bespoke clothing and all that. Now will be a time to, I know the face mask is raining and all that, but the truth about the matter is very soon it will become, and people can do anything. They use hankies, they use a lot, they can improvise. So, but I'll suggest that you can move from that and start making ready to wear, and maybe not a very like a sophisticated clothing and all that. Affordable would be the key word. Something that is very affordable and casual, because I mean people are at home more these days, so they want something easy to wear. Then for, you know, salons and maybe massage spa, anything. If you have a massage spa, you have a salon, think products, because now it's a do-it-yourself era. I mean, we wash our hair, we do a lot at home. So you're going to have to start thinking, okay, now that people are no longer coming into the salon to do that, so what else can I do? You can begin to sell products, market them, and you know, do a video on the benefits of such products. And then, of course, now is a good time for discounts. It will pay you to see how you can craft. If you look at your books and you can accommodate discounts, please do. Now is the season to do that. Then, of course, Daniel talked about remote work. I mean, it is really one of the major lessons that businesses can take away from this unpleasant experience. Because apart from it being an emergency arrangement for times like this, it is also an important component of business continuity strategies. As a business owner, you need to ask yourself, if my office premises becomes inaccessible, can my staff work remotely and keep the business running? Let's say it's not even COVID-19. Something happens to the building, it collapses, or it's locked up for some reason and you can't access it. Can your business continue to run? So, you know, achieving this will have as in help you move your business forward. And to be able to do this, I know it will, for small businesses, it may be a bit difficult because you're talking buying laptops, internet modems, data subscription, and all that. But that is the reality of the future of work. And it is important that you start making plans for that. But for us in Nigeria here, the big elephant in the room would be, what if there is no power supply? Because the truth is, even if you provide them with all these resources, the transformer, if it goes bad, it goes bad. Some people probably won't have light for months, and if they can't work, they can't work. So, but that one, we don't have answers to that. So you can do what you can do. And then, of course, remote work would always work better if you use collaborative tools. I mean, Daniel has said a lot around this: MS Teams, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Skype for Business, all of that to have your meetings and do a lot around the space. But then if you really, really need to go back to the office, so some of the strategies I'll suggest is, of course, you have to be big on hygiene. So there's the issue of there has to be running water in your office so that people, you know, get to wash their hands regularly. Then hand sanitizer dispenser all around the office. So that you have to include as part of your regular office consumables. And then, of course, there should be strict measures around the face mask. Although I read something around the face mask today that you're not supposed to wear it for more than continuously for more than 2 hours. That because you're inhaling and exhaling air, and that air becomes toxic after a while. So the idea is that you only wear it when you're coming in contact with people. So, I mean, that's something that we need to think about as well. Then you can also institute flexible working hours. So what that means is that instead of having, let's say you have 5 or 20 people on your team, instead of having all that 20 coming at the same time, you can have 10 and say, okay, 10 of you work in the morning, 10 work in the evening, or 10 of you work on Monday, the other 10 on Tuesday. You know, move things around to ensure that you reduce the number of people that are in the office at a particular time. And you can also decongest your workspaces. So let's say you had a table where 5 people are crammed in one table at the same time. you have to decongest it and move things around to ensure that there's social distancing even in your office. And I'll talk about focusing on your existing customers. If there's nothing else this pandemic reminds us, it's much easier and less costly to market to your existing customers versus acquiring new customers. I mean, it's difficult enough to keep your existing customers. So now is the key question you should be asking here is, what else can I do to help my customers? Can you offer additional, products or services? Can you speed up your delivery time? Can you sell more with a bulk discount? Can you even partner with another business to enhance your product? And I would say this is just free, and I'll go like, now is not the time to, fake it till you make it. People say a lot of things, and then, you say a lot with your brand, and then when it's time to deliver, you deliver something different. Because customers are not willing to part with cash. So they're very mindful of their spending. So the last thing they need now is to spend money, and then when they get the product, it falls short of what they had bargained for. Because a happy client can act as an ambassador for your business. And I tell you, you need customers singing your praises right now because the market is really tight. And then, of course, I'll lastly say, please don't capitalize on this crisis. Don't overprice your products, especially if they're essential commodities. It's not right. This is not the right time to do that. And then it's important to always, have in mind the crisis that we are living through, because there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of worry out there. So don't add to the worry, please. Then I'll move on to just talk about the few government initiatives that I know about. I mean, there are a lot out there. Of course, we all know about the government loan, the 50 billion naira targeted credit facility. I'm not a loan expert, so I'll just reel out, on a high level what I know about this loan. Yeah, if you need more information, it's on the NESAL website, the NESAL Microfinance Bank. So you can get more there. Then also on our website, msmehub.org, there's an article on it. And our YouTube page, there's a video on the step-by-step on how you can apply for this loan. And there was even a NASAL official that answered questions in that video. So I recommend you watch it. But the high level information I have around the credit facility is that one, it's being managed by NESAL. So NESAL is the Nigeria Incentive-Based Risk Sharing System for Agricultural Lending. Yeah, I think I got that. Okay, so it's a microfinance bank, and credit facilities for household and SMEs. The loan limit for SMEs is 25 million, but it is subject to the size of your business activity, your cash flow, and of course the industry and segment. Then there's the household, which the maximum the households can access is 3 million. And yeah, the interest rate is has been reduced to 5%. But I like to mention here that 5% is only from now till 28 February 2021. Once it's 1st of March 2021, it reverts back to 9%, which is the approved interest rate for intervention loans. So you need to keep that in mind, that the 5% will not subside throughout the time you're meant to pay for the loan. There's also a credit support that CBN has made available for pharmaceutical companies. So if you're a pharmaceutical company intending to expand your drug manufacturing plant in Nigeria, there's a loan out there. Then there's also, this loan is equally made available to hospitals and healthcare practitioners who intend to expand or build first-class healthcare facilities. Then, of course, there's a moratorium period on the loan that is 1 year extension. So yeah, we have that. And beyond that, there's also something around tax. I mean, it's a lot. I think they've extended the due date for filing company income tax. So it's been extended by 1 month. Then the timeline for payment of withholding tax and filing of VAT has also been extended from the 21st of every month to now the last working day of the month. There's a whole lot. So you can also check out the FIRS website for that. There's something on extension of deadline to file individual tax returns. So I think for Lagos State, it's been extended to 31st of May. Then yeah, there's that extension, I think affects both Lagos, Edo, and Abuja. So all that information you can get on FIRS. Then there's an economic stimulus bill. I'm not sure, they've not passed it. So, but it's around protecting employment status of employees who might become unemployed due to possible retrenchment. So I would not say much on this because, like I said, I'm not sure if they've passed it. So it's a whole lot. The truth is that as a business owner, we also have to be very, very realistic. The truth is that you may have to let go of some people. It's sad, but that's the truth. So you have to also revisit your business model and make it align with our current realities. And then you definitely have to go digital. Like I said before, it's either you innovate or you die. Then you have to change your delivery method. And then I would advise, if you're into manufacturing or you make things, it would be advisable that you produce on demand. So you wait for the customers to request before you produce. Don't produce in bulk and leave it. And then, of course, tie up raw materials and then there's nobody purchasing. And you have to standardize your processes in terms of this is not a time that you deliver a good and then people are not happy with what it is that you sent to them. You need happy customers. You need happy customers in this season. And then in discussions around, recommended businesses that stand to thrive post-COVID-19. We'll talk about, of course, the food sector. And we are talking about the staple food, the things like the basic essentials, because people will continue to consume food. Then there's also the essential services. Then there's the home and personal hygienic products like soaps, hand sanitizers, the pharmaceuticals, healthcare products, supplements. Then there's home entertainment. I can't say this enough. Then there are the network and data providers. So anybody doing business around this is the season that they're smiling to the banks. And of course, digital services. There's just a whole lot that is happening online. You've been able to see how you can remodel and restructure your business to represent all this. I think I've talked too much. Yeah, I'll be stopping here now. So back to you, Emmanuel.
All right, thank you so much, Oluchi. I mean, this was very well expository. I've had a few persons reach out to me privately to say, you've broken it into very relatable terms. Thank you very much. So before we take a few questions, I'd like to just go through a few things you noted. Essentially, the understanding that your business has to have online presence this period. I mean, it's possible you're into an industry that requires physical presence. For example, if you're an event decorator, you're a videographer, a photographer, you're an event planner, this is the time to begin to think of ways to keep in touch with your customers and, of course, adapt new ways to reach out to your customers. So, for example, you may not have events to cover this period, you may not have events to plan this period, but there are ways you can reach out to supporting or adapting your business to look into essential areas, like Oluchi has noted. So this period, people want to get access to essentials, logistics, distribution business will thrive in this period. People cannot easily go out as before, so they need people and services to be delivered to them. So we are not stuck in one business. If your business would have required physical presence, would have required you to go out there to offer your service, now it's time to begin to think of digital services, to think of any way and several ways to reduce your exposure and your risks. So thank you very much, Oluchi. I'll take a few comments before we proceed. So Gosner says that you really want to know, are there any invoice factoring companies here in Nigeria? Because this is a great way for small businesses to get their cash flow going. Even with slow paying customers, noting that he knows that post-COVID-19 will bring about a lot of slow paying customers, all right? So he's saying also that I know there are invoice factoring companies in countries abroad, but he's not heard of any in Nigeria. So if I get your questions clearly, Godson, you want to know if there are businesses, if there are companies that offer invoice factoring services. Now, I'm trying to understand what you mean by invoice factoring, because we have invoice discounting for trade finance, and you have the regular invoice system for your retail stores, for your supply chain. So, but I want to assure you that if you pay little attention to research, you would find some of these services already available in Nigeria. A lot of businesses and services available to us to adapt, but because we are used to the traditional system or method of running our businesses where you can just walk into a store, where you can just walk into a banking hall to access service. Now it's time to begin to look for these solution providers and adopt them. And it's also possible that these businesses are not yet common in Nigeria. You may want to think in that direction if you have the capacity to offer this service. So thank you once again, Oluchi. We would like to take the last session. I hope our last speaker is ready. His name is Oluwarufos. Before we move to the last session, some of the things Oluchi mentioned that I find very interesting is the fact that you need to understand that this period would make some businesses kill and some businesses would painfully go extinct. So it's important for you to begin to think in a line of providing services like hygiene, personal hygiene services, essential online services, whatever you offer. Think of making your presence available online. Now it starts with your social media page, your social media space. How well do your customers have confidence in getting up-to-date information from your social media channels? So this is the time to, like Oluchi has said, to push out content that would meet the expectations of your customers. For example, if you sell bags, you sell shoes, whatever product you offer, you're an educationist, or you run a small business, this is the time for you to begin with owning a small website. I know also that as a business owner, previously, perhaps you've been receiving payments in form of cash and transfers. Now you can generate what they call a payments link. So if I sell shoes to my customers, right now, I can request my customers to pay without having to come physically using a payment link. So I know there are several payments organizations that offer a payment link where you can host this payment link on your social media platform, on Instagram, on whatever social media platform you are available on. So this shows that you do not need to be dependent on the traditional way of accepting payments. So I just thought to chip this in as noted by his name is Rufus Oyemade. Rufus is the co-founder of Credital. Rufus is was to be the CTO of the company before he became the co-founder. I know he has a lot to share with us around adopting tech solutions, available tech solutions to scale your business. It has been said over and over in this session that your business needs to have online presence. Your business has to be less dependent on traditional ways of offering services. So we'd like to hear from Rufus, and I hope you find this session very educative. Welcome, Rufus.
Thank you so much for having me. So I'm starting my video. Good evening, everyone. Um, Thank you so much for the opportunity once again, Manuel. And like I said, while Daniel and Oluchi were speaking, I felt they've actually dealt with most of the sections, um, like technology and working from home and some other things like that. But I'll also quickly take us through some of the things that might actually be helpful to navigate this particular period in terms of technology. Um, so yeah, like Emmanuel was saying before I came on, it was talking about payment and operations and social media and so many things like that. So I think for a start, I want to start with social media first. And what I like to say is, truth is, we all know there's pandemic right now, and I would say that yes, it is a fact, like established fact. And so the next question is, how can we move on from now that this is where we are, and how can we continue from here and go to the next step? Can we continue our business as normal? Are there tools and technologies that we can leverage on that would help us to do the things that we're supposed to do and all that? So yeah, so the first thing first, right, that I would advise anybody to do, anybody that wants to still be productive at this time, is to limit their use of social media. And by that, I'm also saying they should even filter, what they see on social media, what they consume from on social media. Because right now, there's a lot of news going left, right, and center. And to be sincere, though we are working from home and, we are not resuming to the office, there's a way some of this information can actually get to us. And, we are instead of being optimistic and being ginger to work, instead we are somehow weighed down and all these things. So that is going to be the first thing I'm going to advise everybody to do. Like if you use Twitter, if you use Instagram, any of the news source that you use, I would say you should just filter what you consume. Anybody that wants to get information around COVID-19 or coronavirus or any of these things can actually follow the appropriate channels, right? There is the NCDC website, there is the CDC, which is the US government website, there is WHO. There are reliable sources for information where you can actually get as many information as you need to know. And we should not be believing everything we see on social media. And also that includes WhatsApp, because there's going to be there has been, and there's still going to be a lot of messages forwarded to us and there's going to be in circulation. I would advise everybody that in as often as possible or in every way possible, we should any information that we are not sure of the source, we should just stop the flow from us. I think that is actually going to help everybody going forward. And on your social media tools, mute the word coronavirus. Just go to the resources where the government, like NCDC websites, for you to get all the information you need around the pandemic. I think that is going to actually go a long way in managing our energy as we all work from home. So we are not wasting so much time being anxious about things that we can do little to control, and we are using the energy we have to actually do more productive work. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. Then yes, so in terms of tools that will actually help you with productivity, Daniel has actually mentioned a lot of them already, and I'm just going to be more practical, give specific names and all, so that we can know which one we can use for our businesses. So first thing first, I would say that communication is key as far as remote work is concerned, like we all know. And the fact that we're even having this meeting on Zoom shows how far we've already gone. So I would just advise everybody in the organization or company, wherever you work, or as many people you need to talk to, that you should leverage on on these tools, all these communication tools like Slack. You have Slack, there is Skype, there is Zoom for video conferencing, there is Microsoft Teams, There are so many options out there. There is Google Hangout and Google Meet for video conferencing as well. So there are so many options actually. So I would just advise that you choose one in your organization and stick to it, and let that be the official communication channel. I mean, of course, apart from the emails and the phone numbers that we all have and use for communication already. Then the other thing I would say is we need to be smart about our meetings. Now, gone are the days when you have to go to a client office, if you're into the service business or even product business or a product sector that you have something to sell. You have to go into the office to pitch your product and all that. And now everybody's at home. You can't really go to places to pitch our project or our product or services again. So usually we need to be smart about how we go about things. So in my own place of work, we've always done this since like 5 years ago, thereabouts, where we have a brochure that we actually share with potential clients that captures all the available service offerings, right, that we are offering and all the products that we have. Then from there, you can basically reach out to us to let us know, okay, this is what I need, this is what I need, this is what I need. And I think if a business didn't have that before now, it is now very important that you have it, because it's going to help, right? Just like a single PDF file that contains all your service offerings that you can share with people, that captures all the basically to an extent, right, needs to know about your business and how you can help them meet their own goals. And so a PDF file that you can just forward to people in email, you can even present in Zoom meetings like this when you need to pitch your idea and business actually go a long way. And like Emmanuel was saying, so the next step beyond this is actually using tools, right? Like websites. You may not have to. So sharing PDF requires the person to reach out to you first. But if you have like a very reputable online presence, that won't be a problem. Like they won't have to make that first move before they actually get to know about your business. So it is very important right now that individuals, creators or creatives that have things, or freelancer that have any service they are offering or product they are offering, it is advisable that they have a website or somewhere online, a repository for all the things that they're able to do for their past projects, upcoming projects, and things like that. So, and as a business as well, you need to have like that central website where people can actually go through to read all the information they need to read. So, like I said, gone are the days when people will have to invite you to the office for a presentation. So even if your website before now doesn't look good, I would advise everybody to just take time out and clean it up, because people will now look online, right, to try and see who can help them with a service, one or two service, right? And possibly reach out to the person through the website using a contact form, email, or phone call. So these are things that should be put in place. And at work also, we have a product called Disha pages that allow people to like create like a very good looking one-page website from their mobile phone. Setting these up won't take up to like 10 minutes of your time, like having a full functional page of your own that you can actually share with people that, okay, this is what I do and this is how to reach out to me, right? So there are tools like this that can actually help you as you go. Then the other thing I wanted to mention is payment. So yes, we need to be very smart about payment and invoicing, right? Thank God bank is resuming next week. Without that, I mean, I'm sure some people still have to like go to the banking hall to make transaction and all that. So now is the time to actually automate all these processes. If you make every transfers, right, now is the time to get that token from your bank, or your soft token from your bank, with security in mind, of course, and so that you can carry out your transaction without any issue. Then as well, in terms of collecting payments from clients, whether you're a business or an individual, there are services like Paystack that allow you to actually, generate just a simple link. From the link, you can basically use that link, share it with your client. So you can even configure the link that you will specify the amount the person is supposed to pay through that. So if you offer a service to someone already and they're supposed to pay you 300K, for instance, right? You can generate a link for that particular amount and just share it to them, right? Just fill in their details and use their card to make the payments to you, and it comes straight to your account. And there are also channels that you can even use for different level of services, right? That it is a customer that gets to enter whatever amount they have. So you can use one page to serve as many clients as possible if you're into the service business. So yeah, that's a way to go. And Paystack has a tool as well, actually handles invoicing for you. So that wouldn't be a problem if you need to generate invoice. And even if you're not using Paystack, there are other apps like FreshBooks, QuickBooks, and Sage that allows you to generate invoices online and send to your client. Then the other thing I have here is on collaboration, right? I already talked about Slack, and I already talked about Skype and all these things. But in terms of document, like Daniel mentioned, right? Google has like a very good offering, like a suite of products that actually helps with collaboration already. Two people, someone in Aja, Lagos, can be editing a document and with someone in Bio University in Kano, right? And it's all on Google Docs, for instance, or they are both using Google Sheet and all these things. So these are tools that we should actually leverage on. It is recommended that you have like a shared folder that allows that seamless flow of communication. Microsoft has the same thing. You can use Outlook, you can use Office 365 on the web or on your desktop app or even on your mobile phones, right? So these are apps that we actually recommend. I would recommend that people use during this period. And their apps actually help with product management or project management, like your Trello, like your Asana, and things like that, that you can have like a to-do list. It can be like personal to-do list of things you want to achieve, and assign it to team members. If you are in a team of people, assign it to team members and they get to check it off when it's done. And right, so that way you can actually monitor the process or the progress of that particular project. So I recommend you use any of these tools as well, like your Trello, like your Asana, and some other things like that. I already talked about video and audio conferencing like Zoom and some other applications out there. I also want to mention, right, we have I'm sure on the group we are a mix of employer and employees. And I'll say that in as much as everybody is working remotely at this point in time, I'll say that it's very important that you understand that, okay, we need to exercise a little bit of empathy because I'm sure nobody has been, this is the first time most of us are going through something like this, right? And even if anybody has gone through this before, I'm not sure the experience is the same, right? So for instance, it is advisable that you require your team members or the people you collaborate with to actually be online at the same time to work with you. And even you need to work together, it is best that it is communicated ahead of time that, hey, hello, are you available to work with me on so and so by 2 p.m. tomorrow? So that person needs to put everything they need to put in place from their hand, and they need to be available for the same time as well. It's not going to be like business as usual that you can just walk into somebody's office and just request for their help for something. People's sleep cycle, people work cycle, being at home has been different. It's been somehow. I've been on calls where I've had mothers and babies crying. Obviously, that is not a good time to talk. So if you schedule calls ahead or meetings ahead, it's actually going to help the other person to put all the things they need to put in place for the meeting to go smoothly. So we just need to know that communication may not be as synchronous as we expected. So we need to understand what the other person might be going through at the other hand, and try to sympathize or empathize with them as we go. And so yes, the other thing I wanted to show here is, I wanted to mention here is that everybody should, like we said already, like Oluchi said already, it is advisable that we all leverage on social media. And now is the time to showcase your work, right? For people that are in the creative space, even corporate entities, right? As businesses, this is a time where people need to know more about your business and what you are doing. And reason being that is where they spend most of their time now. I'm sure there was a time like 3 or 2 weeks ago where Nigerians were clamoring for data reduction in data prices from the telcos, and it shows that people are now spending so much time on social media or the apps on their phones. So they'll most like it to be nice that you are in their face as well. So when they need a service already, you're already you're top of mind, right? And you're readily available to them. So you need to, everybody, like individuals or businesses, needs to be active on social media. And by active, I'm not saying being online 24/7. This is more or less like checking it at intervals, right? If I check in the morning, say 10 a.m., and see if there's any new DM or whatever, or send a message out, make a post on Instagram or LinkedIn, and maybe later in the evening just check if there's been any responses or any inquiries and things like that. We can allocate like time blocks to when we can use some of these apps, right, and use it well. So it is highly recommended right now, because right now that is where most of our customers are, and we also need to like leverage on that so as well. Then in terms of, speaking of software tools as well, if we look at the favorite ones, if you go on Slack website, for instance, or Microsoft there and there, earlier we were talking about e-learning or online learning platforms, and to an extent, most of the applications out there already, they are giving support to people that want to either do something online and make it very easy for them. So you see some people running discounts, right? So that they can get so many people on board to use their products, which is going to be a win-win for you. I mean, if a product is going for say $100 and they are saying, oh, okay, because of COVID, and because we know you need to use this communication to come and pay $10, for instance, and it is going to be beneficial for your service or your company, then now is the time to actually buy such a product or subscribe to such service, because it's going to also make your work very easy on the long run. So most people are giving like discounts out there so that people can use their tool to during this time. So I'll just say, be on the lookout for newsletters, be on the lookout for emails, check the website to see if there's any discounts because of the time or your time zone and all that. Then speaking of email, I would also advise everybody to be conscious of security, right? There's been so many phishing messages going around, emails. They look legit. They look like they are telling you how to be careful about the virus and so many things like that. But they're actually clickbait that takes you from here to there, where you get to enter your card for some reason or enter some personal information that they can use to for some malicious reason. So I think every one of us should be careful of the emails we receive, and any attachment we open, right? If it is not from a trusted source, if it is not from someone you know, I would say maybe you should just ignore, right? Or confirm from the source before you know, click any link and or go to any website. Check, and also browsers are helping these days. They have a way of telling if a website is actually very secure or not. So you need to be conscious of that. So watch out when you are receiving and opening emails. Even beyond now, right? It's a culture we need to imbibe. Though the email might look legit, it might be from a source, that an untrusted source that just want to hack your email for whatever reason. So just only open email from reliable sources and click on links that you are sure of the destination or the owner of the link. Yeah, so that's that about email. Then also speaking of tools, right? I also need to mention the hardware side of things, right? Beyond the softwares that we use on our laptop, the ones we use on our phone, we also need to be conscious that there are hardwares that are actually going to make our work very easy at home. Number one of them is comfortable working chair and table, right? You need to ensure that wherever you are working on, especially if you're going to be sitting there for long hours, right? You are um, you are comfortable and all that, right? Some people might need to get like webcam and maybe noise cancellation headphone, and that will help with their video conferencing, right? And there are also apps that can even help you with noise cancellation, like Crips.ai. There are tools that you can use online. Then printers and scanners are very important as well, right? For people that need to sign documents and things like that, it's advisable that they have a home printer plugged into their system or connected to their Wi-Fi that they can print things from. And it's even more beautiful now that if you don't need to do any of these things, you can basically even just install scanner and printer, scanner apps on your phone. So it's good camera and good lighting. You can actually scan a very good document that you can use for anything you're doing online. So these are things that I believe that if you have and you put in place, it's actually going to help with working from home at this time, and even beyond working from home. I'm sure by the time the world go back to normal, and by normal I mean that maybe there's a vaccine or something, and can all go out. I'm still sure that most people will still be working from remote locations. I would say that these are tools that before now that after now that is still going to be very helpful. So I think that is all from my end. I don't know if anybody have any questions. Thank you so much for having me once again, and I hope you've been able to gain one or two things. Hello?
Yes, thank you very much, Rufus.
Yeah.
So give a small business who has 2 people, and what they do is they provide, say, kitchen utensils to homes. I want to say that you can begin, like Rufus has said, with simply open a Google site, a Google free website. I mean, that could be a good start for you. You know, Rufus talked about how you can adopt some free tools. You can get a mobile scanner and use scanner instead of the regular scanners used at home. So there are several other tools you can adopt that would be cost saving and would ensure that you're in the face of your customers. So one of the things I think I learned from Rufus' session was the fact that it is important for you to have a brochure that speaks to all your services. So for example, if you're a fashion designer, if you're a photographer, or whatever you do, available to your customers. So you can post this on your website or one of these free web services like Google sites, so that customers all over providing those services. So before we take feedback from all the participants, I want to just show us what it looks like to own a digital site. A friend of mine has a digital website, and I'll just show us what it looks like in a moment. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, so this is for a friend called Dayo Ajibola. He hosts a digital site, and all of his work, all of his personal data, all of his jobs he's done in the last couple of weeks or months, he has it on a one-page site on Dishap. So It is what projecting your brand looks like. I mean, it is simple to use. It is beautiful. It is clear. You don't need to speak too much to your customer to say, this is what I do. So every business, small business owner may want to leverage on solutions like Disham and like Rufus has said, to get payments link for you to receive payments. I mean, like I mentioned, Flutterwave offers this kind of service. Paystack, SystemSpec offer free services that would ensure that, yes, thank you, that's the web page in the comment section. So you can receive payments anywhere in the world for free. In fact, you can even receive dollar-denominated payments. So I want to encourage you as a business owner to begin to think of making your services available to your customers. So this is a very important point that every business owner should think of what you take on from this training. There are several ways you can make your business and your services available to those who need it. Now it's time to also define your audience. You know those who should benefit from your products. You can do a bit of data analysis, data decision making to say those who benefit from my products are those between the demographics of 13 to 19, or those from 35 to 50. So that will help you with knowing how to get your audience well targeted. So, for example, I was going to make a sponsored ad on Twitter for this training, and Twitter helps you to segmentize your audience. So you can say, I want to speak to people in Nigeria, I want to speak to people within this age bracket, and all of these tools will give you an edge in the space of in a very competitive space that we find ourselves right now. So in the next 5 minutes, we would like to hear from all our speakers as they round up, beginning with Mr. Daniel, if he's available. But while Mr. Daniel comes up, I would like to see what comments and questions we have. All right. So Chooks has said we can get information about invoice factoring on his blog. Chooks is a young developer, and I think he's been very resourceful in putting this together also. So loangrip.com, you can visit to learn more about invoice factoring. Now, I would like to say before Mr. Daniel comes up that if you want to reach out to any of our speakers, please shoot me an email at me@emmanuelolujobi.com, or just call my mobile number. I would find a way to handshake you with any of our speakers. It has been said over and over in this training that what we need to leverage on right now is communication and collaboration. So communication meaning that you do not need physical presence to reach out to your customers, and collaboration meaning that you can get resources, you can get services, you can get consultancy jobs, you can get jobs delivered across the world from the comfort of your homes. So over to Mr. Daniel, your closing remarks in 2 minutes. Thank you.
All right, thank you once again for this opportunity to talk to young to entrepreneurs. Well, in closing, what I would just like to say is that there is a need for us to, like I mentioned, pay attention to emerging opportunities. And we have said over and over today that the needs of customers are going to be changing, and there is a need for you to not be fixated on exactly what you have been doing in the past. There is a need for you to be open, to be able to see where opportunities are coming from, and be able to position yourself around the opportunities so that as they come, you can grow your stream of revenue, and that can help you to, transit, notwithstanding the challenges that the current pandemic has brought. I think that's basically what I'd like to share as a closing remark. Thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Daniel. That's very succinct. It's important for you to learn to adapt and adapt new changes. This experience has come to stay, at least for a while, so it's important that the feedback from this first session, which is learn to adapt, is very important for us to imbibe. All right, so next to be Oluchi, we'd like to hear from you, speaking from and MSME community manager background. All right, Oluchi.
Okay, thank you, Emmanuel. Okay, so like what I said initially, this is the time that you need to either innovate or you would die. So, and innovation meaning if you don't have an online presence, this is a good time to have one. Also ensure that you're following consumer trends, because there's no point having a product if there's no market for it. And it's not also a me too attitude and you go like, okay, people are producing face masks. Should I do that? It should be you being able to look at inwards and look at what you do presently and see how you can change your operating model to go with the trend. And then, of course, I'll also say do not produce in bulk now, but produce based on demand, because you don't want to tie down your capital with goods that no one is willing to buy. So lastly, I'll say don't stay ball watching and saying, I mean, this will soon blow over. Let's just wait it out. Because the truth about the matter is you have to think short term and also think long term. So as you're thinking, oh, what can we do in the immediate interim to keep this business afloat, while we now think in long term. Thank you. I think that's all I have to say. And I'm optimistic that this will blow over soon. Let's all stay safe. Thank you.
And successfully captured. So, yes, we'd like to hear from a young man and a lady just after Rufus gives his closing. This session have been captured. So, after Rufus is done with the summary, in just 1 minute, I want to hear what you think is a major take home for you as a small business owner. So, over to you, Rufus.
Okay, thank you once again. So the first thing I would say is filter what you consume. Whatever it is, the way it's going to, we have limited energy, right? So we cannot afford to deplete it on anxiety and so many other things like that. Let's conserve it for productive work. Then also communicate and communicate and communicate. I feel that is how remote work is actually going to work. Use all the available tools that is close to you, or that is suitable for you. Then as well, showcase your work. People need to know what you're doing, the awesome stuff you do, and just showcases using any of the multiple channels available. Post it on your WhatsApp status. Your family and friends will actually see that this is what you do. And through that, you get more people to reach out to you and all that, whether individual or business. And yeah, I wish everyone the best. And please stay safe. If you're going out, use mask. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Rufus. So, quickly, is there anyone who would like to give a summary of if you take home it has? I mean, anyone who can just speak on unmute your mic, or if you please, you can enable your video. A young man or a lady, as we come to the end of this session. All right, while that is going on, I'm sure you're trying to make up your mind. I would like to remind us that LinkedIn, for example, is a very important site. It's a very important platform for us to showcase what we do. LinkedIn, Twitter. Now, it's important, like everyone has said, that people see you as a go-to person for services you provide. So be relevant. Do not just sit back to say, I'm consumed by coronavirus episode. Join groups, join communities on this platform, particularly on LinkedIn. As much as people are losing jobs and losing opportunities this period, there are a few people who are getting contract jobs, getting opportunities. So join relevant communities online. You're spending less on transportation this period. You can channel those resources to staying online and staying very resourceful online. So I think there's someone who is trying to speak. If you're available, I'd like to hear from you.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Kemi is the name. I'm a business
We'd like to know
owner.
what you do for you. Good.
Okay, so
Good.
I run 3 businesses. I produce bags and shoes. I also produce other fashion accessories. I run a research outfit, and finally I produce paints and render printing services. Okay, so
That's amazing.
thank you. The session today has been very enlightening. I'm very grateful. Thank you to all our facilitators. So I took something from Mr. Daniel. I'm trying to, okay, yes, your positioning determines the level of impact the COVID-19 pandemic will have on you and your business. Basically, that's what I took. Since it's 1 minute, I want to be fast about it. So secondly, from Oluchi, innovate or die. It's more like survival of the fittest. So if you have a business now, just look for something to do. Your business may not really be on the essential side right now. Like I've been thinking of some of my businesses, but there's a way that you can innovate and make your business essential. Do something essential so that your business doesn't crash and burn. And finally, from Oluwarufos, I've learned limit your social media presence, or limit your use rather of social media, and filter what you consume. Then communicate. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Kemi. That was well composed. So, any other person before we call it today? It's already 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
We trust that. All right.
Okay. Hello. I'm Gotten Chooks by name, and I'm an online strategist, brand strategist. So I help small businesses grow online. And from what Daniel said, he was talking about when it comes down to B2C businesses. What I actually noticed is that right now delivering of products to customers will be very, very difficult. Actually, in the middle of last year, a lady met me and she was like, Chooks, how do I grow my baking business online? And I was like, I studied how the whole industry was like, and I told her, why not offer training services online? And she was like, would that really work? I said, just try it. The lady didn't actually try it. And what I've really noticed in this COVID-19 pandemic is that I see people that are actually product sellers. They are offering training services on their IG live. And that's a very popular trend that I've really noticed during this period. So what I think is that if the lady had yielded to my advice, like her business right now will be up the roof, because right now what is trending is like if you have a baking company, instead of you to like sell your products to customers, you can actually teach them how to bake professionally. And what the benefit of that is that you can actually become an influencer in that industry, because right now the influencer industry is getting really big. It's getting really big, and I would like every one of us to tap into it. So that is just what I really have to say right now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chooks. I mean, that was an excellent summary of our discussion today. So I want to thank everybody for coming, for sparing 2 hours of the time for this discussion. I want to say that it is very important for us to remember that the first thing is we have to keep safe. We have to abide by the regulations of the government in terms of social distancing and interactions with people, because there will be no business if you're not alive and healthy. So please first take care of yourself, as the lockdown is, easing up on Monday. Please do not forget to observe safety protocols. Keep safe. Next would be to think of how to make your business relevant, which is what we've learned in the session today. Once again, I want to thank everyone for coming. Send me an email if you have further inquiries, or you want to reach out to our speakers at me, that's me, at emmanuelolujobi.com, or you can reach me on my mobile. Thank you once again. Do not forget to join relevant communities. Hope to see your business scale. Have a nice day, everyone.